If I went to my wife and I was like, I'm going to spend almost $5,000 on a video game, how do you think that conversation? All right, we should just hop into this, Wes. Before we get into what's hot, what's not, I do want to look at some legacy titles. And when I say legacy titles, if you guys go back and watch our old content,
Mhm.
first of all, if you guys are watching on Nerdthusiast Gaming on our YouTube channel there, so youtube.com/at Nerdthusiast Gaming, if you're watching us there, our legacy content, almost all of it, is over at on youtube.com/Nerdthusiast. That's our main channel. We segmented off to try to grow this channel separately where all the gaming content exists. But our legacy content's over there, and we have tons of pricing videos from back in the day. So make sure you check them out. If you go through any of that content, you're going to see me and Wes talking quite a bit about some of our favorite titles that we either want, in my case, or that we own, in Wes's case. And we went through a bunch of them. We rehashed these a lot. This show, we're only going to talk about two of those titles. And we're going to talk
Mhm.
about them right now. So if you guys have watched those, we're going to talk about all new games that we haven't talked about in the past, except for right now. So let me get my baby out of the way that I'm never going to own unless something crazy happens one day. Little Samson. Little Samson today,
Mhm.
Wes, a loose one, $2,185. Complete in box, $4,578. In a sealed one is
Oh
$18,313.
my god, that just it's just so incredibly expensive for a Nintendo game.
It is. It is. Now, most of you common sense people would be saying, dude, just emulate it. And that's not the point. Of course, I could just emulate it, but I want it. There's a difference. I want it in my NES collection.
You want to physically own that game.
Right. The original. The original.
Yeah, at $2,000 just for a loose cartridge.
But here's the thing. If I got this, it would probably be loose, first of all, right? I would prefer complete in box. Always. Always. But I'd probably end up buying a loose one just because a lot of my NES collection is loose anyways, and I'm not paying. If I went to my wife and I was like, I'm going to spend almost $5,000 on a video game, how do you think that conversation? So no, I won't be buying it, especially complete in box. But the peak complete in box price, if we want to compare those two real quick, $5,631 back in May of 2022. So still in that pandemic window, and so that it's dropped. It's dropped about $1,000, a
Mhm.
little bit more than $1,000 in 2 years. So you are seeing those pandemic prices come down, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, here's a question: have you ever played Little Samson?
No,
Not even on emulation?
like I said, I could.
Hmm.
The day that I play that game, I'm gonna have it in my hands, Wes.
Okay.
It's going to happen. I'll probably be close to dead, but it's going to happen.
You use your money for your 401k when you're retired to
Yeah,
buy Little Samson.
right. Beating like cans of peas, and that's it. Like, got my little Samson though.
When people get older and retire, they buy like a vet or some hot sports car. You'll buy Little Samson.
Oh yeah, first thing on the list. What about you? What is your legacy title, sir?
My legacy title is one we talked about several times before. It is one that I actually have in my collection still, and it is Panzer Dragoon Saga for the Sega Saturn.
Of
Uh,
course, man. A
that game
grail
is
to many on the Saturn.
it is one of those holy grails. Right now, loose, just the CD is $700. The complete in box is $908, and sealed is $1,509. Mine is still sealed. I'm really itching to play it because it's been sitting there staring at me, and I'm like, but I'm trying to resist the urge. But this one has dropped in price, which is surprising. Because it came out at the end of the Saturn's run, so there wasn't a whole lot of them made. But the the peak was in August of 2021. A complete in box was 1350.
Hmm.
So right now it dropped about $400.
Just like Little
Um,
Samson, it's that
yeah,
pandemic peak, man. It's dropping not a crazy amount, but you know, a good
Well,
chunk.
even still, the sealed at one point was 2 grand.
Yeah.
It was 2 grand. Now it's 1,500. I mean, that's still expensive, but it is coming down. It
Right.
is coming down. So that just kind of proves our point where the market is kind of stabilizing, and we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, prices are still crazy, but it's not as crazy as it once was, for many of the titles. So those are obviously some heavy hitters that we chose for that segment. We're going to roll into what's hot now. And when we say what's hot, again, I just want to reiterate this. We are talking about the consoles, those libraries of consoles that are popular to shop for currently, right
Mhm.
now. So we're not saying that every single title for that console is going to be going up in price. That's not true. But overall, the popularity of that console, people are shopping for, people want, and
Mhm.
are seeking out games for those consoles. Now, in some cases, yes, the price is going to go up because of that, but it's not across the board. The first thing I would like to mention is that handhelds were completely dominant at the convention I went to this year. They were front and center pretty much everywhere. I did mention that before, but DS, GBA, specifically, like really, really were everywhere. At those events. Did you see the same thing on the East Coast?
I did. I did. And when I went to too many games, like you saw like GBAs, you saw Game Gears, you saw DSs, you saw a lot of the handhelds. They were all over the place.
Yeah, like previously, like they would always kind of be off to the corner, off to the side.
Hmm.
They were never front and center like they were,
No,
this
they were
past
they,
year.
they were prevalent. Just about every vendor had them prominently displayed, like in the front.
Another great thing to look at for what's hot is like either rare or uncommon horror games. Those, if you we I looked at many prices over the past couple nights here,
Hmm.
and the horror games are bucking the trend of the pandemic, like decline, like coming down from the pandemic. Almost
Hmm.
every game that's a horror game is still climbing. It's shocking.
Really?
Not everyone, to
Hmm.
be clear, but many of them, like their peaks are now or like in the past few months.
Huh. I wonder what's
So,
I wonder what's driving those horror games to go up, it like especially now.
I mean, if you're saying like now, probably Halloween time is a good thing, right? But I mean, just like looking at in between the years, yeah. Why is it?
Hmm.
Why are they going up now compared to the pandemic? I think you see a spike during the pandemic, right?
Hmm.
And then I think especially the older horror games had lower print runs. Unless you're Resident Evil, right? I'm not talking about Resident Evil, right? I'm talking about a little bit more, like I mentioned, rare or uncommon.
like
Uh,
like Fatal Frame or
yes,
Clock
yes,
Tower, stuff like that.
stuff like that. Now, Clock Tower has a remake that's coming out. Depending
Hmm.
on which one you're talking about, but that
Hmm.
the remakes can affect prices and stuff like that too. But if you're looking for something to keep raising in price, it seems like horror games are a great way to do it.
One horror game that I always see that stays pretty consistently on the higher side, and when I say high, it's not like Little Samson high, but is Silent Hill for
Hmm.
PlayStation. Like
Yeah,
Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3 are consistently like up there. And when I say up there, I'm talking hundreds, like $100 and above.
yeah. I mean, the remake came out, but the remake is a little bit different, right? So I think that's still going to
Yeah.
drive people to want the older
Hmm.
version because it's not, even though it's very similar, it's not exactly
Hmm.
the same. So there's still going to be a market for that.
Hmm.
The other thing that you should collect for, if you guys are like again looking more of it as like a money aspect, is RPGs. I mean, get horror games, get RPGs. They tend to traditionally either hold their value or go up
Hmm.
in value over time. That's another category that you should be looking out for. And the last thing I will throw in here, Pokemon. Does it say Pokemon on the box? Buy it and hold on to it for 20 years, and it'll probably be worth more money.
Pokemon consistently stays high and relevant.
It's crazy. It's nuts,
Still,
man.
it is. It is. And it's funny because, at Level Up, when we do get Pokemon games, they sell immediately. And they're not cheap.
No, a lot of them are $100+. Like some of them are
Hmm.
$200+. It depends on which one
Hmm.
you're talking about, but they are expensive games, especially complete in box.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We did want to talk about just two handhelds we think you should collect for now. Wes, I'm going to have you go first. Why don't you talk about your handheld, and then I'll talk about the one that I picked.
Mine is kind of like a rare one. It's a Neo Geo Pocket. They came out in America for a very short window, very short time.
It
The
was only like
game
2 years or something, right? Like,
it was yeah, it was released and then it was gone. Neo Geo is well known for Samurai Showdown and Fatal Fury fight, games and um, King of Fighters. So they had their fighters. It was cool. It was a cool little handheld, but it's kind of pricey. Like a loose one is 112 bucks, which is the same thing as the complete in box, which is 112 bucks. Surprisingly.
yeah, I never owned one of these. Not something I'm really going out and looking for. I picked up a collection of games, limited run made a volume one and a volume two of
Mhm.
games. I got the first one. I don't think that I have the second one, but I think that's probably an easy way to play like some of the awesome games from that console without having to go through and pick them up individually.
Yeah, yeah, but that was my choice for like a rare handheld to be on the lookout for. Um, it's one that seems to hold its value.
Mine was a Nintendo DS, and that's strictly because A, it's one of my favorite handhelds of all time. B, there's just an amazing library of games for it. And C, they're on the opposite side. They're not that expensive to buy. They're relatively cheap, especially if you're getting a loose one. If you're looking at a loose one, you're looking at so I looked at the red and black Nintendo DS Lite.
Mhm.
A loose one was $45, complete in box was 85, and a sealed one was 452. A DS Lite is what I would recommend because they also play GBA games. Once you get
Mhm.
to the DSi and the DSi something, I can't remember the other title. Those systems do not play GBA games, so I think the Lite is a nice in between. Highly recommend the DS console. Again, there's just tons and tons of games to play, and they're prominent in store or at conventions. I'll say they're prominent at conventions. They're front and center. People are showing them off, and there's a high interest now, which means the prices are going to keep going up for a while. You probably should have bought these a few years ago. You might be paying a little bit more than then, but for at least the foreseeable future, for the next few years, those prices are going to continue to go up. So if you want something, just grab it now.
Okay, here's a question for you: Nintendo DS or 3DS?
I never bought a 3DS. Not even. I don't know. When the 3DS came out, I was like, I'm good for now. Maybe I'll get one later. I was really
Hmm.
down on handhelds at the time. I was like, I'm kind of burned out on
Hmm.
handhelds. And I was like, I'm just gonna wait. And then it floundered when it first came out. I was like, well, I'm glad I waited. And then I just waited longer. And I was like, well, there's nothing that's that intriguing. And then they put out a link between two worlds, and I was like, well, that's intriguing. But I don't feel like spending whatever it was, $200,
Yeah.
so I can play one game. So I never bought it. There's a handful of games I would want for it now, but I can't buy another. I can't buy another console and start another library, man. I can't do it. Not right now. I don't have the
I
energy.
I waited too. I obtained one a couple years ago. I finally broke down and got one because there was like certain stipulations that I was like, okay, if I'm going to buy one, it's got to be a purple one, and I couldn't find a purple one because they took them off the market. So I was like,
Hmm.
okay, fine, I don't have to buy one. And then I happened to stumble across a purple 3DS, and I bought it. But
Is that one of the Galaxy ones that has like the stars on it?
it's just the purple. It's not the one with the stars on it.
Okay. I always thought the
But
Galaxy one was really cool.
yeah, they are cool. I mean, it's a cool little system. The 3D is it's gimmicky. A lot of people just turn it off.
Oh yeah, I would. Let me be clear. I'd 100% turn that thing off.
So I'm just curious to get your input. Whether you prefer the 3DS or the DS.
I can't say that I preferred one over the other, but
Hmm.
I mean, my interest level was completely different for those two systems.
Okay.
We already kind of mentioned this earlier, so I'm gonna hop into just a couple examples of handhelds. These are two Pokemon games. I'll start out with Soul Silver with a Pokewalker. This is one that I actually own. I don't own many Pokemon games, but I do have this one. A loose one is $196. Complete in box is 319, and a sealed one is 645. To my point about Pokemon games really just continuing, this is the peak. right now. 319 for a complete in box is the peak. Then we have Pokemon Emerald, a loose 210, complete in box 600, sealed 900. Well, the peak for complete in box was 672, but that was in May of 2024 this year. So my theory is that that one was probably like mint or like near mint, and that's why it went for
Mm.
more.
Yeah, because I'm like, wow, like the peak is like now. Well,
Yeah,
it was
basically.
in May. It was this
It was
year.
in May, but that's only a few months ago. Like it's still like
Yeah,
these things are still going up, you know.
they always do. They always do. Pokemon's just like I said. Pokemon games do not depreciate at all.
I think generations of kids just keep growing up. Then they get older and they want to go back and grab these when they have
Mhm.
money. And there's less and less of them because there's more and more Pokemon fans that are
Mhm.
growing up. You know,
Yeah.
maybe.
Plus, too, I see a lot of the nostalgia factor kicked in. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
the a lot of the adults now that are working and have the money are like, man, I remember playing this game when it first came out. I can afford it now. I'm going to buy it again and relive it, and I see that a lot.
I believe it. Now, I'd be remiss if I went first for this one, Wes. We're about to hop into some Dreamcast games. This is still under the what's hot section. Dreamcast, has peaks and valleys.
Mhm.
Uh, although Dreamcast, I would say, is not as hot as it once was, it's still pretty collectible right now. So we do have it on our what's hot list. But Wes, start us out, man. What game did you pick for the Dreamcast?
I picked. I love my fighters, so I went with Street Fighter 3, the Double Impact, the second one. Even though Third Strike is arguably the best of the Street Fighter 3 games, I went with Double Impact. It's not crazy expensive. Where loose is $47 right now. The complete in box is 72, and a sealed is 172. But
That's not
the
bad.
it's not the it peaked at $83 in September 2021. So it only dipped a couple dollars.
Yeah, $11. That's not a huge drop at all. It
It's
seems
it's
like
it's
it's
not.
keeping that sustainability from the pandemic.
It is, and like I said, like you said, Dreamcast is still a hot commodity. People still come in looking for it. I still, get customers all the time talking about Dreamcast and do we have Dreamcast? And when I go to retro stores, their Dreamcasts sell.
They do, man. There's a nice market for it. I mean, it's
Mhm.
like the most after it was out, everybody started loving the Dreamcast. Like after it was dead and gone, I was like, oh, now you guys like the Dreamcast.
Now you want a
Okay,
Dreamcast.
you weren't there on 99.99. You don't know, but you know now.
It's one of my favorite systems. Loved it.
So I picked one that we discussed here previously. If you guys know
Mhm.
Vinny from our streaming over on Nerdthusiast main YouTube channel, he streams there. He streams on Kick. He streams on Twitch. He came on a show a few months back, and he talked about Cannon Spike. And Cannon Spike is a game I don't even know if I heard of it at that point. I was like, what the hell is
Mhm.
Cannon Spike? But it's a pretty cool game. It's like
Mhm.
a bunch of Capcom characters in a game
Mhm.
together. That's the best way I can describe it. It's not like Smash Brothers. It's like Smash Brothers in the fact that all the characters are together, but it's nothing like Smash Brothers at all. But you guys should check out videos. The game looks awesome. It's very expensive. One of the more expensive Dreamcast games. A loose one currently is $200. Complete in box, $315, and a sealed one will set you back $741. Now its peak was in June of 2024, so this is another one that's going to kind of continue its rise for the most part.
Mhm.
$349 was its peak in June of 2024. So
Mhm.
just a few months later, it's down, $35 or so. Not a huge drop, but
Mm-mm.
again, you don't the thing with like small incremental changes in prices is probably due to condition. I bet you that one probably looked like it was brand new and it went for more than it did today.
Could be. Oh, Cannon Spike was such a good game. It was a top. It was like a 3/4 view shooter
Yeah.
with Capcom characters in it. That was great.
All right. Now we go from what's probably Wes's favorite console to what's probably my favorite console. Y'all know I love the N64. Y'all know I pre ordered my analog 3D.
I
Day
ordered one
one,
too.
absolutely. Now, they haven't really showed off a lot. There's like some small screenshots and stuff, but I have faith in analog. They better blow me away. In the meantime, we're going to talk about some Dreamcast games, or some N64 games from there. Castlevania Legacy of Darkness. We had a whole Castlevania segment just a month or two ago, so I've had to pick this one. Legacy of Darkness, a loose copy is 157, complete in box is 323, and a sealed one is 702. This game peaked in February of 2023, so probably getting out of post-pandemic, but it was 454. So over $100 decrease in price. But if I remember the graph correctly, which will be on the screen for you guys to see, it was like one copy sold for that amount. And again, I don't know what these anomalies are, but there's obviously something that happens when they sell for that amount. I imagine it's probably condition. It could be a variety of things. Who knows? You know, maybe one of the dudes from Castlevania signed the box or something. I have no idea. But $100 loss is pretty significant in the matter of a year or so.
Now, Legacy of Darkness, that was the second Castlevania game for 64, right? That was the second one.
I don't remember.
That had the wolf.
I
That
didn't
had
play
the
those games.
no, that had the wolf on the cover. Yeah, I think that was
Yeah,
the second one. Okay.
yeah, who cares?
Oh, you didn't play them? I was gonna ask what did you think of
No,
Castlevania? I mean, we love Castlevania as a
2D,
franchise.
2D, 2D,
Okay.
not 3D. I don't know, man. For even 323, if somebody was like, "Hey, man, you want Legacy of Darkness? It's only $323." Like, no, I'm good. I'd probably maybe the loose one, but $150 for a loose, mediocre at best Castlevania game. Come on, I don't know, man. But the next, I like this pick here, Wes, that you got for N64. Go ahead and tell me all about it.
Yeah, man. Turok. Turok started off with a 64, and it was a fun game. And they gave us Turok 2, and then they gave us Turok 3, Shadow of Oblivion. It not crazy, crazy expensive. It did drop in price because right now a loose copy is $40. A complete in box is 94, and a sealed copy is 210. But it peaked a complete in box in May 2022. It was $173. So you figure it dropped about $80 in the past 2 years.
That's a substantial drop, man.
That's a hefty steep. That's a drop.
Yeah, now N64. Again, this is on our hot list. N64 is still hot, but it is starting to cool off a little bit. It's not as hot as it was before, right? Like GameCube is way hotter, and we're gonna get into that in a minute too. Like GameCube games are just like hard to find in general. Not like impossible to find, right? But like if you go to a retro store, it's gonna be a very small section of GameCube games.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because they can't keep them in stock.
True.
But N64 just seems to be, yeah, people are still picking it up, but not to the same extent that it was. And I think PS1 is kind of in that category where, you know, I feel like it was a little bit hotter, maybe like a year or so ago. It is still popular. It is still on our hot list, but it might be coming down a little bit. Certain titles are going up just because they don't make them anywhere else. Which my first pick was Mega Man Legends 2. $75 loose, complete in box is 146, sealed copies 280. Now this game peaked, its complete in box peaked at $157 in April of 2023. So kind of post pandemic, but if you look at the prices, a $9 difference today. So it hasn't lost a lot of its value, Wes.
No, no,
Mega
it
Man Legends
hasn't.
2.
That one, yeah, it's still holding strong.
Well, it's not playable anywhere else that I'm aware of. I don't
Hmm.
think I don't think you can download it anywhere. I think you can only get a physical copy, which would make sense why the price is continuing to rise.
Yeah, yeah. Huh. Well, my pick for PlayStation One was Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. Now the game sucked.
I want to be clear about something before we hop into this real quick. What I picked, Wes, there's two versions. I don't know if you noticed that. There's a Bandai version and there's an Atari version. I picked the Bandai version, A, because it was more expensive, but B, I figure that's probably the one that's more popular that people actually want. The pricing that we're going to talk about is the
Hmm.
Bandai version. I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. Go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, because like I said, the game sucked, and I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. The game was horrible. A loose copy is $16, And this is where there's a huge jump because a complete in box is 141 bucks.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
sealed is 367. It's what's interesting is that it peaked. The peak was only in September 2024 at $153. So it only dropped what? 12 bucks?
Right. So I mean, that's like almost insignificant, especially because
Mhm.
I think the reason that game is continuing to go up, no, not that many people bought the game back then. To your point, it sucked also. So even if you were into Dragon Balls, like, do you really want to buy it? Right. The game didn't sell well, and then on top of that, Dragon Ball's popularity has just exploded over the years. Like, it's
It
more
has.
popular like than ever.
Mhm.
So of course people are trying to go back and get it, even if it's crappy. So that price is probably going to continue to stay on the rise for a while, right? And then I don't know how to say the dude's name. He passed away.
Yeah,
So
Akira Toriyama.
yeah, so that might affect things also.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, because Dragon Ball games have a roller coaster that you're up, they're down, they're up and up. This one always kind of stayed constant. It kind of stayed constantly high.
Yep.
But I'm just surprised at the discrepancy between the loose one for 16 and the complete box for 141 bucks. That's a big gap.
When I looked at these, this is just an aside. When I was going through these prices to make this
Mhm.
video today, I was so mad when I saw this, West, because I have the Bandai copy, and I didn't
Mhm.
even know it. Like, because I, if you guys didn't know, like half my collection has been in New Jersey, and only recently have I like combined all of my collection. I have all my games under one roof for the first time, yeah, in over 20 years. Everything is here. And when I was going through stuff, I found Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. And I didn't even know I had it. Couldn't even tell you where it came from. But you damn well know it's a loose copy, West, for $16. I was like, oh man, come on. Come on. It's the Bandai version, but it's the
Mhm.
loose copy. I don't have the case, the manual, none of that.
I remember years ago, I had a sealed copy, and I gave it to you to sell for me on eBay
You gave it to
eh,
me?
to sell because you
To
had an eBay
me?
account. Yeah, and you sold it for
What?
me. Yeah, and you were like the guy that bought it. He paid a hefty penny for it. He paid me like 400 bucks for it. This was like years ago when we were at
Are you
EB.
sure it was me?
It was you. It was you.
I don't
And
remember this at all.
he one of the things he said is, "Oh, I can't wait to get this game so my son can start playing it." And I like almost shed a tear. I almost didn't want to sell it because he was gonna open it.
I don't think that was me, Wes. I think you're mistaking me for somebody else.
It was you because you had an eBay account, and you were like, "I'll sell it for you." I'm like, "Okay."
I'm not gonna say you're wrong because I my memory is bad, but I have no recollection of doing that
No,
whatsoever.
okay, yeah, I remember.
Man,
And
well,
then I wound up getting it again, like not too soon after. So,
look, you said you got 400 bucks for it.
mhm.
Hey, it's only 367 now. Look at it that way.
Yeah, yeah, and that was way back then.
Yeah, so that's not bad, man. Not a bad deal. $400 in 15, 20 years ago's money. Much better. Much better. All right, on to PS2. Wes, hit me with what you got, sir.
PS2, I picked Guitaru Man. I love that
Awesome
game.
little game.
I love that game. I love that game. It was when like the rhythm games were starting to become real popular because you already had Parappa the Rappa, you had Jamalami, and
DDR
you
was
had
out.
DDR, Res. So Guitaru Man was thrown in the mix. Little character. It was a rhythm based game, and you push the buttons in time with the music. And he had a guitar, and you use the analog stick. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. But right now, loose Guitaru Man is 90 bucks. Complete in box is 141, and a sealed is not too much more expensive at 148 bucks. But it peaked at $158 in April 2022.
Yeah,
So
so even then, you're not looking at a huge decline.
no, again, you're not, and PS2, like you said before, is one of the best selling consoles ever.
It's the best selling console ever. Period.
Yeah, so games, it's still PS2. You know what? PS2 still sells.
It
PS2 games
does.
still sell.
It's still a great library to collect for. I think it's still
Mhm,
popular to collect for now, but the PS2 sold so well that so many of their games are under $20 and under $10. Like
mhm,
fantastic games that are under 10 and $20. There's just tons of them. Yeah, there's some expensive outliers like the one that you pointed out. But I
mhm.
mean, if you bought a PS2 today, you could go insane. You can get
You
100
could.
games that are fantastic under $20.
The Getaway is one of them. Prime example. Awesome.
Mhm.
And that game is under $10.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. PS2 is great system, man. My pick was The Simpsons Hit and Run. Loved this game, Wes.
Awesome game. Crazy Taxi with the Simpsons.
That's Road Rage. This
No,
is
that's
Hit and
Road
Run.
Rage. That's right.
This
That's
was
right.
this was like the open world Grand
The
Theft
open
Auto.
right. Yep, that's the one.
Yeah, man. I had a blast playing this game. I did not play it on PS2, however. I played it on Xbox, but
Hmm.
awesome, awesome game. Loose copy, you're looking at $37 currently. Complete in box is 50.
Hmm.
Sealed is 154. The peak, May of 2024. $53 for complete in box. So only a $3 difference from where it is now. So definitely holding its value. One thing Wes and I talked about on our Patreon exclusive video, which you can go check out if you subscribe to us on Patreon, um, was that licensing has a lot to do with the value of games
Hmm.
continuing to go up over time because a those games usually become unavailable at some point because the licensing is no longer valid, and b if the property is still in the public consciousness, people are still going to want to seek out titles, right? The Simpsons is somehow still on TV. Like it's still relevant today, which is crazy to think about. But that means people are going to grow up with it. They're going to learn about it. And now all those episodes are on, I believe, Disney Plus.
Disney
So,
Plus.
you're going to have generations of people that grow up with the Simpsons still. And on top of that, it's a great game. I mean, come on, man. $50. Go get this for your PS2.
Gotta love The Simpsons.
I do quite a bit. At least the old ones. I don't watch them anymore. But when I grew up, oh man, all the
Really?
time.
I still watch them. I still
Yeah,
watch them.
are they
Yeah.
still good?
Some episodes are better than others.
Okay.
It's not as funny as it used to be, but there are some episodes that are, still laugh out loud funny.
There was seasons where Conan O'Brien was writing for them, and I think that was like some of the best. It was like probably like season 3 and 4, like
Yeah, like
somewhere
the
around there.
earlier seasons. Hmm.
And they were so good. But yeah, I got a soft spot for the Simpsons. People like to crap on them all the time now, but I like it. All right, Wes. Now we're in that generation. Still hot. Still talking about the hotness.
Hmm.
We're gonna end with what we mentioned earlier, the GameCube. What do you got for me?
GameCube, 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 is always hot.
And for years now, it's been a while.
Always hot. Yeah, it's crazy. But it's that Nintendo thing. I don't know what it is. Like Nintendo systems always stay hot
For the
for the
most
most
part,
part.
yeah.
For the most part. But GameCube is one of those exceptions, man. GameCube is just consistently hot. So I picked Resident Evil 2 for the GameCube.
Now, was this?
Uh,
I have questions before we.
mhm,
We're definitely gonna talk about the pricing. I don't remember. I mean, I know that the remake of the first one, right, was there. Was this
mhm.
like a remake of two, or was this more of a port? Because
It was a
I don't.
port.
Okay, okay,
It was a port. It was a I want to say it was a port of the Dreamcast version.
okay, okay.
Yeah,
That would make sense.
it was nothing like the remake of the first one.
Okay,
Um, but yeah, loose Resident Evil 2 is $90. Complete in box, you're looking at $100, and a sealed one is 302. Where it Resident Evil 2 for GameCube peaked July 2022 at $121. So we're only talking a $20 difference in the past 2 years, which is
yeah,
nothing.
man. Horror games,
Which is
horror
nothing.
games get a hold of that value, man, or keep rising. Yeah, $20 is not a huge difference, right? Again, that could be condition. It could be the box looks better. It could
Mhm.
be the disc look better. It could be a number of things. Who knows? But $20 is not a huge loss. Is it significant percentage wise? Perhaps it's like I don't know whatever percent, but I don't know. Still, I don't know. Would you pay like let's take all the pricing away for a second. Let me just straight up ask you. For
Okay.
that version
Hmm.
of Resident Evil 2, would you pay $100 for that today?
Yes.
See, I wouldn't.
See, I would.
I would go buy the remake. The remake is amazing.
Oh, the remake is phenomenal.
Right. I know they're not necessarily the same. I get that. I do. But if I'm gonna spend that much money, dude, I'd rather go spend $30 and get the remake, which is a way better, in my opinion, a way better version.
It is, but to experience it on the GameCube, I would pay that $100.
Okay. I respect that. I
I would.
respect that. I would be more inclined to get the Resident Evil remake because that is still, from my understanding, that's still the remake version that they use on all the ports today. Like
It is. It is.
that's so crazy to think about.
What'd you pick for your GameCube?
So my GameCube pick was a late release on the GameCube. In fact, the Wii had already come out during this time, which kind of made the price go up because I don't think they sold nearly as many copies as they would have if it weren't for the Wii. And this was The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. A loose Twilight Princess is $84. Complete in box, you're looking at 113, and a sealed one is $304, which is you know up there for a GameCube game.
Mhm.
Now, if we're looking at a peak, in April of 2023, $131. So again, about a $20 difference, a little bit less than $20 difference. So still holding its value fairly well.
It is.